Then he extended, and that's when the ball came loose. But his knee was down by then. My issue with the play might be different from most people because most people are caught up in whether or not it should have been a touchdown or not. My point is the worst case scenario in all of this should have been that it was at least a completed pass. And no, you didn't get the ball over the end zone, over the goal line. So as a result, we're going to give you the ball at the half-yard line. That would have sufficed for me. If it wasn't a touchdown because, survive the ground rule was applicable here and they didn't believe he had control of the ball. And as a result of it, you didn't call it a touchdown, but you still acknowledge that he caught the ball before extending his arm to the goal line and trying to extend the football over it. So we're going to give you the ball at the half-yard line, then I would have had no problem with it. The rule to me is completely bogus because you completely strip the completion altogether, which I think is just absolutely, utterly ridiculous, particularly when it's a running back and all you got to do is penetrate the goal line, and then all of a sudden it's a touchdown. But if your knee is down, it's not applicable there. Well, he caught the pass, the knee was down, and if you want to sit up there and say he didn't survive the ground rule in terms of the extension over the goal line, it's not a touchdown, so be it. But the ball should have at least been at the half-yard line at the very least. But in terms of answering the question directly as to whether or not this indeed was the reason the Steelers lost the game, I'm going to say no. I'm going to say that the New England Patriots in their offensive possession to take the lead after being down 24-19 with a little over 2 minutes left, going 80 yards in about 10, what felt like 10 seconds, for crying out loud, utterly disgust me. A 26-yard completion to Rob Gronkowski, another 26-yard completion to Rob Gronkowski, then a 17-yard completion to Rob Gronkowski, all on safety Sean Davis, by the way. And then after Deion Lewis runs the football in for a touchdown, Rob Gronkowski shoved Sean Davis aside like he was nothing for the 2-point conversion. So you got 4 completions right there, all right? 3 for about 68 yards to set up the touchdown, plus a 2-point conversion against a Steeler defense that I have been harping on for the last 6 weeks. That, this defense is suspect. This secondary is suspect. And that was before Shazier went down. It was right around the time Joe Hayden went down, which shows you what he could mean to this secondary. But nevertheless, the absence of him, along with the absence of Ryan Shazier, who, by the way, would have been defending Rob Gronkowski instead of Sean Davis, to me, ultimately was the difference in this game. Because guess what? As disgusted as I am with this caller's bogus rule, and by the way, somebody needs to explain to me how Mike Tomlin is on the competition committee and somehow, some way this wasn't addressed. Somebody also needs to explain to me why is Ben Roethlisberger wanting to spike the ball, but Todd Haley, on orders from Mike Tomlin, tells you to run a play. So the only individual that runs a pattern is Eli Rogers, and the Patriots, seeing it on film, anticipating that it's something that would happen because the Steelers did it before. Talk about transparency working against you. I think those two things, Rob Gronkowski on that final drive with Tom Brady, combined with the blown spike play that should have been but wasn't, or whatever the case may be, the combination of those two things ultimately overrules anything that happened on that final play. Because if you're Ben Roethlisberger, you are experienced enough to know that even if you didn't spike the ball and ran a play that you didn't want to run because Mike Tomlin insisted, he didn't tell you to throw that damn pass. That's the problem with this game. That's what led to this outcome.
I'm going to address that in a moment because we're going to change topics in a couple minutes, Stephen A. And I want to address your Brady to Gronk issue then. And in terms of the spiking the ball and running the wrong play, look, the Patriots, and we could talk about this a little later in the show too, the Patriots are basically the Floyd Mayweather of football. They rely on you making more mistakes than them. That's how they've, with a great quarterback and the greatest quarterback ever, the greatest coach ever, and a basic philosophy of we're going to make fewer mistakes than the other team. That's how they've had this incredible, unbelievable, unparalleled in the history of football 17-year run. And that's an example of it. But I want to get back to the play that really decided it. Because on the field, it was called a touchdown. So when they review it, they need incontrovertible evidence to take it back. And the evidence they used was a misinterpretation of the rule, which came from the league, by the way. The refs are there on the field. They get the call right. The league essentially overturns the call. It's ridiculous. Let me explain something why I have to correct your logic here because it's very important. I know why you feel that way. You're like, look, if the knee's down, he's got possession. If you want to say he then doesn't survive contact with the ground, fine, don't give him the touchdown. Make it 1st and goal, right? That makes sense, except that We all acknowledge that a runner with the ball, a player with the ball, doesn't need to survive the ground in the end zone. As soon as they break the plane, as soon as the ball touches the plane, it is a touchdown. Anything that happens after that is irrelevant. So you really can't have it that way, Stephen A. If you say, look, he was down, so put him down there, that goes against the logic of the NFL's own rules about touchdowns. Yes, obviously his knee was down. We all acknowledge that. And you brought up a great point. He brings it in. So he has possession. Knee down, that equals 2 feet. He actually brings in the ball. At that point, he makes a football move to score a touchdown. Already has possession. Once the ball hits the plane, after that, nothing matters if you acknowledge he has possession. There's no way to say he doesn't have possession with his knee down and bringing the ball in. Look, here it is. 2 feet, that's it. And then it's not simultaneous. In real motion, it looks simultaneous. But look here. And then he makes the move. So with benefit of replay, the only way to get that wrong is a fundamental misunderstanding of the logic of their own rules. They find it difficult to follow the logic of their own rules, unless they want to claim that he made the motion before his knee was down, which that did not appear to be the case in super slow motion. You can't have it down on the
well,
first
listen, the bottom line is that whether it's with the Jets, Severian Jenkins, or somebody else, we've seen situations where that rule has worked against players, has worked against teams. The difference is it's rare when their knee was down prior to the football supposedly penetrating the line, the goal line, or whatever the case may be. My issue is the fact that the knee was down and the catch was clearly made when the knee was down before the extension to the ground took place, before the extension to the goal line took place. Whereas with other instances where the rule has worked against players, their knees were not on the ground prior to them trying to penetrate the goal line. But I hear what you're saying.
Right, once that's the case, he extends. As soon as it touches the plane, touchdown. Everything else is irrelevant. That is a touchdown. And the reason I say that is the play. Look, is that the side of the game? What about all the other plays? What about the passes to Gronk? What about Ben Roethlisberger not spiking the ball? What about this? What about that? I'm clearly not literally claiming that there was only one play in the game and that was it. But if you have to pinpoint a play on which the game turned that determined the outcome, one high leverage play, that was clearly it.
Well, that's not clearly. That's not clearly. It's a matter of preference. It's a matter of preference.
4 points if they hit the extra point.
I'm saying, but it's a matter of preference, because the fact of the matter is I can look at them being up 5. Listen, when you give up 3 plays for 68 yards to Rob Gronkowski on a final drive plus a 2-point conversion, when you sit up there and blow a spike play by literally you want to spike it, the coach doesn't want to, and you fake the spike, but then you throw it right over the middle so it can get tipped for an interception a la Russell Wilson in the Super Bowl. I'm not sitting there and saying your point is invalid in terms of what you're pointing to as determining the outcome, but I'm saying that's a matter of preference. You can look at it that way, but I'd be damned if I'm wrong for looking at 3 plays to Gronkowski plus a 2-point conversion plus Big Ben Roethlisberger on a blown spike play. That's 5 damn plays.
Look, 5. Right. You got to pile 5 plays together. I'm identifying one that trumps all of those, because
I don't think it trumps
all those plays down the field, Brady to Gronkowski, we know, hey, this is the grown-up table now. The adults are speaking, says Brady to Gronkowski, right? Right? Brady's telling the rest of the team, watch this. Everyone, kids, calm down. I'm going to Gronk. Let the pros handle this. Goes right down the field and scores. That's what they do. After that, the Steelers score to win the game. The refs get the call right.
Is there survive the ground rule?
Of the rules, they reverse it.
Is there a survive the ground rule?
We got to keep it moving.
There is a survive the ground rule.
No, not once you break. Not if you're already. If you're making a football play, you're already a runner and you break the plane. No.
Al Riveron says otherwise.
More to get to. It was a catch and it was a terrible last play as well. So Pittsburgh falls to number 2 in the AFC and will most likely have to play in Foxborough if both teams make the AFC Championship. But they did lead most of the game and were without Antonio Brown for the entire second half. Stephen A., we got to be quickly go.